Hello, and welcome to the Artificial Podcast, with your host Nick Myers.
Artificial
intelligence,
voice recognition, machine learning,
robotics,
actionable analytics.
It is Nick's goal to help everyone understand how AI and voice technology are reshaping our lives both personally and within organizations. Your glimpse into the growing world of AI and voice first starts now.
Nick Myers.
Nick Myers. Nick Myers.
Nick Myers.
Welcome to the Artificial Podcast. My name is Nick Myers, and I am here to help break down topics in emerging technology, artificial intelligence, and voice assistant tech to help everyone understand how these technologies are impacting our lives both personally and within our organizations. The Artificial Podcast is brought to you by Red Fox AI. Red Fox AI helps give brands a voice by leveraging the power of AI and voice assistant technologies like Alexa and Google Assistant. If you or your organization is interested in sponsoring an episode, please send an email to the Artificial Podcast at redfox-ai.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere that you stream podcast episodes. You can also follow the Artificial Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube by searching for the Artificial Podcast. Thank you for listening, and now on to this week's episode. Hey there, Artificial Podcasters. Welcome back to another week and another episode of the Artificial Podcast. This week, I am excited to welcome Robert Scoble to the Artificial Podcast. And like many of the guests that I've had the pleasure of bringing on the show, I actually met Robert on Twitter. The reason I found some of Robert's stuff and started reading it was because Brian Romley, who of course I had on the show a couple months ago now, retweeted something that Robert tweeted, and it was something related to AR, and I just started diving down the rabbit hole a bit and came across Robert's blog and was like, yeah, I got to talk to this guy. So he was kind enough after I sent him a DM on Twitter to have a chat with me, and we've been chatting for couple of months now, and I'm excited to finally have him on the podcast. But before Robert and I start chatting, let me tell you a bit about Mr. Robert Scoble. So Robert works with companies that are implementing spatial computing technologies, though he is taking some time off after finishing his latest book, The Infinite Retina, to spend time with his young kids. He is a futurist and technology strategist and is the author of 4 books about technology trends, being the first to report on technologies from autonomous vehicles to Siri. Robert has previously held roles that include being a strategist at Microsoft, a futurist at Rackspace, chief strategy officer at Infinite Retina, and the producer and host of a video show about technology at Fast Company. Robert, welcome to the Artificial Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
And,
I've been
for a
looking
great
forward
intro.
to our conversation for a while, and I know the past
Yeah.
few we've talked about some pretty incredible stuff coming down the pipeline here. So I'm ready to blow people's minds.
It's worthy to think about Siri, because that was about a decade ago, and it was the first AI app or AI system that I saw come to the consumer market. And obviously, it was one of the best purchases that Apple's ever made. It made more money for Apple than any other acquisition it's made. And I've seen the back end of Siri and talked to their founders quite a few times over the years, and understand where things are going. Siri is about to get smarter next year, and that'll be a fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, and I know that's something we kind of talked about in our last chat, and I think I've mentioned that a lot of the folks I do have on the Artificial Podcast, and of course my area of expertise, given the niche of tech that I work in, is voice tech. And of course in voice technology right now you have Amazon with Alexa, Google Assistant, Bixby's kind of floating out there, and there's Siri, of course. But if you ask most folks in the voice tech industry their thoughts on Siri, nobody really has much to say. And
they will next year.
Right. That fascinates me because Apple's always kind of been this company, right, that invests in something early, it seems like, then maybe they do something with it right away, or they kind of hold back and wait to see how the rest of the industry is evolving and how other folks are using it before they really do anything. And I feel like Siri's day is about to get big here, according to some things that you've said.
it takes a while for big companies to integrate new technologies, right? The 3D sensor that just showed up in the iPhone a couple weeks ago, um, I saw it 8 years ago at the Consumer Electronics Show in Prime Sense's booth, right?
Right.
Suite. It wasn't even on the main floor. It was off off in the suites. You had to find it, right? And
Yeah.
Apple bought that company shortly thereafter, and now it built the 3D sensor into the phone, right? And Apple, I had dinner with one of the guys who ran Siri at Apple 4 years ago, and I asked him, "What are you learning by being at Apple now?" And he goes, "I'm learning Google's beating us." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" And he's like, "Well, we instrumented Google, and Google's learning faster than we are, and so we're gonna have to rebuild Siri from scratch." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Whoa!" That was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Whoa. And I think this product that's coming next year, or family product to be more accurate, is going to be going to. It's interesting. I think Siri is going to be it's still as dumb as a bag of rocks if you look at it the right way.
Yeah.
But everybody's going to say, "Oh shit, it just passed everybody else."
And see,
Right?
I can totally see that happening, because that's what Apple
And I'll
does,
explain
right?
how they're going to do it too. It's genius,
Yeah.
actually.
Well,
Right.
before we get into that quick, maybe if you can just briefly dive into what your journey's been like so far, and
Um,
ultimately what led you now to AR, VR, and spatial
my dad.
computing as kind of your niche
I
of
mean,
tech.
I mean, my dad moved us to Cupertino in 1971. Right. Apple started in 1977. So my dad was an engineer, and I fell in love with new things
Wow.
because of that. And I had an Apple II in 1977, and I
So you're
toured
there right as
Apple.
things were getting going, then, pretty much.
I got a tour when they were one building, and I was in the first
Wow.
computer club at a high junior high, right, with 5 other people. And when I got to high school, they just bought Apple IIs, and when I got to college, they just bought Macintoshes. And I met Steve Wozniak at a community college,
Jeez.
and studied with him every morning.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I've been watching Apple for a long, long time, from very close seats, right? I've been to more than one or two press conferences of theirs.
Wow.
And my best friend is one of the 12 guys who built the iPhone, right? So I've been around
Jeez.
Apple. My next door neighbor works at Apple, right? So Apple's all around me, and so is everything else in Silicon Valley, right? I was the first one to see Tesla. I was the first one to see Siri. I was the
Yeah.
first one to see Flipboard. I was Twitter's #1 user for the first 2 years of its life, right? So I had a famous blog in the 2000s and about Silicon Valley tech, and got me into a lot of interesting things, and that got me to study technology in a deep way. I worked at Microsoft 15 years ago, and I saw array microphones that are just about to become really useful, right? And
Yeah.
we'll talk about those. Uh, yeah, all sorts of stuff. And then you start looking at the AI. I mean, all right, a decade ago, AI didn't exist,
Yeah.
right? Siri comes on the scene, and everybody's like, "Oh, new technique for building software. Maybe we should do that too." And now a third of the M1 chip in the Macintosh is neural network, right?
It's so crazy. It's so
Oh,
crazy.
and it's totally unused. So everybody's buying a new Mac. That chip is just sitting. It's like a factory just sitting there unused. Like
Yeah.
the little transistors are going, "Don't have any work to do today." And so what is it there for? We'll talk about next year, because next year, probably around June, they're coming out with a pair of headphones that's going to blow people away. And people are like, "What? What? Why is Apple doing audio headphones?" Because they're going to put the visual computer in the headphones, and the computer can see, and you don't know that when you're wearing it, or you don't think about it too much, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden audio is about to get completely blown apart.
Okay, well let's dive into that, because I know this is
Yeah.
one of the big things we wanted to chat about, because as we kind of started off our discussion where where I kind of mentioned,
And it also shows that the kinds of investments that Apple's making
right,
are immense and are very, very aggressive
yes,
for a company of its size, right?
right.
They're spending $40 billion on these headphones.
That's
To
just
give you,
stupid amount of money, but it's going to create something that's life changing, I'm sure.
They've bought company after company after company for the last decade. So do you remember when Steve Jobs said, I figured out how to disrupt TV, when he told Walter Isaacson that?
Yep.
This is the product.
Yes.
This is the
It's
product.
10 years in the making.
So next year they're going to show off, they're going to sell the headphones, and they're going to show off the visor. The visor snaps into the headphone with a bunch of magnets and has a new optical connector. The visor is going to have two 4K Sony displays in it, but you won't be able to buy the visor until 2022, right?
Right.
But you'll know about it. You'll know it's coming.
So let's start with the headphones. What is going to be game changing about the headphones themselves compared to anything else out there right now?
They are the key to building a new 3D map of the world, where it knows every. Think about as soon as you turn this thing on, it's starting to build a 3D map of the room you're in, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you can do this with your LiDAR, right, on your phone, right? If you have a new iPhone that has a LiDAR, you can map out your room, right? And then you can walk around it or go outside and walk in, right? What Apple is doing is making a 3D map of the world. Let's say it's every millimeter turns into a little volumetric pixel, right? So everything in your kitchen is going to be billions of pixels, voxels, we call them volumetric pixels, right? Mm-hmm. And each pixel can be a microphone, or each voxel can be a microphone, can be a speaker, or have its visual changed, right? That's augmented reality, right? So soon you're going to be wearing this visor in your kitchen, and it's going to have visual stuff all over the place, right? TV screens on the walls, pictures, augmented reality jumping off of the table, right? All sorts of visuals and audio. They're going to start with the audio, which is brilliant. I believe this comes straight from Steve Jobs, right? And if it doesn't come straight from Steve Jobs, Steve taught his executives how to think about when a new paradigm comes, because he lived through 3 paradigm shifts, right?
Right.
When he learned some things by bringing customers and a company through paradigm shifts, right? And watching everything that went down. And so he taught the executives how to think about products when you go through a paradigm shift. And the most important thing that they teach the executives is think about customer journey. How are you going to get somebody from a cell phone to wearing glasses where they compute in glasses, right? Start with a smaller step with just audio. Get people used to the audio, and then bring in the visual. So these headphones are going to do some amazing things. Philip Rosedale, who's building an audio company, has told me what they can do. You can put a band on your front yard, right? Or you somewhere on the near the street, right?
Yeah.
You can hear that band from maybe a block away, right? And you can walk up to the band and walk around it and walk in between the musical instruments, right? So let's say you have a mariachi band on your front lawn having a party. You can then grab the trumpet player and take him into the kitchen, or her, and leave her there, and she's playing trumpet, right?
Gosh.
So that might not seem that big a deal, but in the 80s I sold a lot of speakers, a lot of expensive speakers, to people who wanted to separate the sounds better.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
now they're going to have the ability to have an infinite soundstage. So some of the slide decks you probably see when they introduce this thing, some of the features, one of them is 7.1 surround is great, but what if you had a trillion channel surround or an infinite channel surround, right? Right.
Right.
And this world has already come. It's called AirPod Pros with spatial audio. Spatial audio gives you infinite channel surround sound. You can put sound far off into the distance. You can move sound closer to you, like a train, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a marching band. You can move sound around your environment, and you can already, you don't need to wait for the headphones. You can get the AirPod Pros and get an app called Spatial Bliss, and you can move the sound around you, and you can be thrown into soundscapes, right? And so you can be thrown into a monastery and you hear what that sounds like, or into a sporting arena, hear what that sounds like, and move the sounds around, right? Or move around the sounds, right? So 20 years ago, I visited Stanford University and went to the digital music research lab, and they had 100 speakers in a circle around this lab. And if you stood in the middle, they could put sound all the way around you. Well, now a $250 pair of headphones has that. The AirPod Pros have more computer processing in them than an iPhone 4 did, right? So
Right.
they're spending a lot of money on audio, understanding how to bring it to the market, right? And we haven't really seen much use of this yet.
No.
This is just started in iPhone, iOS 14.2, right? Got pretty good there. So you're putting on these headphones, and it's gonna say something like, "Hi, I'm Siri, and I'm always here. You can always call me up. Say, hey Siri, call me up, and I'll talk to you." And Siri can say, "I've left a bunch of audio fun in your house. So I want you to look inside closets with your headphones, or open drawers, or open bedroom doors, or walk around outside, right? And we'll leave audio things for you, but fun things, right? So you open up one closet door, and it'll sound like you're in a bat cave with the bats actually on the walls of the closet,
Gosh.
right?
Yeah.
Because it knows, think about what it's doing. It can
Right.
see in 3D. It can build a 3D model of your closet before you realize there's no audio playing, and then it starts playing audio, right? You hear bats when you stick your head in the closet, right? And it freaks you out. You just say, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Right? But you go and do some other
Yeah.
things. There's a marching band in the kitchen, and there's, right, something like that. And so you open and close all the drawers, and different audio soundscape comes out of it, right? And it has a lot of fun with you. Well, what you just did was, in about 3 minutes, you completely scanned everything in your house, and it
Yeah.
knows where everything is. So let me say that again, because I'm going to write a post right before the headphones come out. Let's say they get announced next June. As soon as everybody understands what Apple's doing, I'm going to say, do not put on the headphones.
I remember you telling me this too in our last conversation.
And I'm warning everybody, these things in 3 to 10 minutes is going to know pretty much everything about you. like what kind of brand of cereal you eat, what you have, what kind of underwear you have in a drawer, because you're going to open that up and you're going to hear some funny thing come out of it, right? And you won't think about it, but Apple just got your underwear drawer, right? And just got your favorite brand of underwear on it. You're like, hey, so that's nice, right? So it's going to learn very quickly, and certainly, you're going to wear this headphone for a year on Zoom calls and stuff, and calls like this, walk around. it's going to learn everything about you very quickly, right? So let's start with that. Number two, it's going to be like heroin. These headphones are going to so thoroughly blow people away that they're not going to want to take them off. And there's a whole bunch of reasons you won't take them off when in public. You won't take them off while hanging out
Well,
with the
knowing
family.
Apple, I'm sure they're going to be incredibly comfortable and probably look great.
It's not that.
No?
There's supposedly up to 9 microphones on this product. And you're going to be able to hear people in a noisy restaurant in a way that you'd never heard them before, right? Because when I saw an array microphone at Microsoft, 15 years ago, the guy who built it explained that if he knew where to focus the microphone's attention on, he would be able to do perfect noise canceling. Because if he knew where your mouth was, he could focus the microphone's attention on just your mouth.
And these
and
headphones will be able to see that.
Bingo.
Oh my gosh.
Bingo.
That's
right?
going to be...
So now think about that, right? You walk into a restaurant and you can't, it's noisy, but you put on the headphones and all of a sudden all you hear is the person you're talking to, right? So it's going to have next level noise canceling. It's going to have noise canceling that you've never heard before, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't even started talking about the AI that's going to take that microphone signal. First of all, there's an AI running the microphones, right? And figuring out where to focus them. But there's another AI that's going to take the audio stream and say, oh, a little bit of noise leaked through. Let's get rid of that. I'm using an app called Crisp on Zoom on my computer, which gets rid of background noise. And my friends who've been trying it out have been trying it with, vacuum cleaners and stuff. And you can't hear a vacuum cleaner right by the microphone, right? So it figured out, okay, I'm going to look for signal in this stream of numbers, because everything is numbers, right? I'm going to look for a signal in the stream of numbers that looks like a human voice, and I'm going to get rid of everything else, like a vacuum cleaner or music in the background, stuff like that, right? And so the AI on this stuff is going to be next level. That's what the neural network is for. The neural network is going to keep track of a lot of stuff.
It's probably intelligent enough to know specifically when you're communicating, say you're in a bar, you're in a restaurant, specifically with a waiter or waitress or a bartender, cancel everything out, and then you shift your attention to everyone else at the table, focuses on all of the people, but cancels everything. That's crazy.
Think about this one. Let's say you're talking to your friend, like we are, right? At a table, might have a football game on a virtual screen that we're both watching in 2022 with our visor, right? But the bartender gestures towards us, right? And says, do you want another, Coke or whatever? The LiDAR on the front sees him, right?
Yeah.
Sees that he's looking at us, sees that he's gesturing, sees that his mouth is moving, hears him, and then opens up the speaker and passes his audio to me so I can hear him, right? Talking to me. Mm-hmm. And all of that's going to happen in a few milliseconds, right? So we won't even know. In fact, it might delay the audio a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But if I know the bartender just asked me if I want a Coke a second after he said it, it's not a big deal. I'll just say, yeah, I'd love another Coke. And I won't even realize there's a little bit of latency in this thing, right? Because the AI had to do some work and the thing had to do some work. But the latency is not going to be that long. It's not going to take very long for it to figure out that that this bartender's talking to us.
And it'll undoubtedly get better over time.
Oh, absolutely. So you're going to be able to do next level noise canceling. You can turn off noises by where they are, which is really pretty crazy, right?
Yes.
And by the way, if it really does have 9 microphones on it, even if it just has two. I mean, my AirPod Pros right now have two microphones, but it only uses one of them, right?
Uh-huh.
It can turn on the left one or the right one, and you hearing me, it doesn't affect that at all because um, uh, you can't hear me in spatial, right? You can't hear me with any depth, so you don't know which microphone is. I don't even know which microphone is actually listening right now, the left one or the right one. In the future, an AI is going to decide which microphones to turn on, and we're just going to get better sound. We're going to get better noise canceling and better surround sound, and we're going to get sound locked to things. So the bartender will actually sound like he's talking from where he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see him in my visor, right? Now, I'm not really seeing him. I'm seeing what Apple wants to portray him as in my visor, right? Because I'm seeing the 3D world that Apple owns, the 3D database of things around me, right? And the screens are not showing me analog. They're not showing me the real world. They're showing me depiction of the real world, right? So it's going to be a pretty next level.
Well, with the headphones too, I'm thinking over the past couple of years, we've had, real milestones achieved in real-time language transcription, right? And I know when I was in Thailand, I was using that real-time translation feature that Google offers. But you think of something like this where it's headphones, the person speaks in their native language and it automatically translates it to English, maybe in their real tone of voice in real time.
So,
my God.
So here's one for you. This product will let the blind see and the deaf hear. Right?
Yep.
Because it can see everything in your house and know where it is, like a plate or a cup or keys or anything, right? Hey Siri, where did I leave the Campbell's chicken soup? Oh, it's in your pantry down at the bottom.
And
right?
There's been no accessible technology, at least that I'm aware of, that could capture all of that in real time to this point.
Real time and have a database of it, right? So there's a lot to unpack in this product that's coming next year. Privacy is going to be radically different by the end of next year, because once people figure out this thing is actually making a 3D image of their house, right? And everything in it, like it would know where your scissors are, where your Phillips head screwdrivers are, right? Everything. Then it's going to start doing things that nobody else can do, right? And Apple is trusted enough by enough people to get started in this new world, right?
Yeah, I think if any other company, Google, Amazon, Facebook, were to attempt this, even probably Microsoft, I think it would be met with a lot of hesitation.
I think this will be met with a lot of hesitation anyways, right? But because they're starting with an audio headphone, it messes with everybody, because it's like, can't wear that headphone in my house, Oh, really? Why not?
Right. Well, we've also, we've
because
been wearing headphones for.
I don't want it to learn where everything is in my house. It's like,
it's a really good tactic,
right.
I think, too, if that's what they do, because we've all been wearing headphones for how many years now? Sure, they can't shoot out LiDAR sensors and map our whole space, but everybody's familiar with the concept of headphones, and
there we go.
I think,
yes,
and
the second you put these on, you're going to realize they're not normal. They're like, what? Right. Because the sound is going to be better on them, because it's going to be able to put the band in your house, and because it can see that you have a glass wall right next to where the band is, so you can change the audio reflectivity, right? And add a little bit of glass sound, like reflection off of glass, so it sounds sick, right? God. It's gonna be like unlike anything you've ever heard before.
Well, and then you throw in the Siri component too, right? Where you now truly have a voice assistant with you 24/7 if you're wearing these things 24/7. And that's, of course, been
Yeah.
one of the big hurdles of voice tech right now is, yeah, you can always have like Google Assistant on your phone or the Alexa app or things like that, but you still have to go into an app to access
Now,
it to a degree.
now here's a fun thing. All right. So I'm sitting in my garage, and I see a canister of Armor All cleaning wipes. Right. So you think about any product, Tide or eggs or whatever. If you ask Siri today, how much is 20 of these on Amazon? It has no clue what you just said.
Right.
Because it doesn't know what these is. What are you talking about? Right. Now, if you say how much is an Armor All cleaning wipe and you get it right, okay, then it can go to Amazon and look it up. But when these headphones come, it's going to see what you're holding in your hand. It's going to see your hands. You're going to be able to gesture to it, or it's going to be able to at least see what you're doing with your hands. Are you dragging your hands, right? Are you grabbing with your hands? Are you pointing, right? So it's some gestures. And it's going to know what you're looking at because of AI, right? So if you're holding a Coke can, it'll know that versus this Armor All thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it knows. And it also knows where you're looking, by the way. So now it really knows what you're talking about. So now it can do an Amazon lookup for any product, right? That you're holding, right? So you hold up an orange and you say, how much is a bag of these on at Safeway, right? All of a sudden it'll come back and give you an answer. And it's like, wow, that's cool. How did it know that? Here's another one. You're in your, let's say you win the lottery and you want to dress up your house, right? So you go into your bedroom and say, I got some extra money. I want to redesign my house. Hey Siri, what do you think I should do this room? I'd get rid of the brown wall. And you'd be like, what? How do you know that the wall's brown? Yeah. And it's just the start. It might ask you, hey, pull out your phone from your pocket. I'll show you what I'm thinking of.
Well, and that's going to blossom into a whole entirely new industry that doesn't even exist yet.
Oh, there's a lot of new things coming in the next 12 months, right?
And you even mentioned in our last conversation, too, they could actually take on Google in terms of search engine with this.
They're building a new search engine because it's going to know what you're touching and what you're looking at. So you go to Walmart. My friend works at Walmart now in R&D, right? And we're already thinking about these headphones. Oh, it knows that you're holding a product in a Walmart, right? Well, now it can do all sorts of stuff. Tell you about the product, tell you about how to use it, how it would be used, show you what it would look like in your house, right? So if you're looking at couches or beds, you could actually pull up on your phone, your bedroom. If it has a 3D scan of your entire house, it can do shit like that, right? It can say, oh, what room do you want to put this couch in again? Oh, you want to put it in your living room? Oh, let me show you. Pull the phone out of your pants and I'll show you what it'll look like in your house. And you're like, that's sick. You can do this already, right? There's apps that do augmented reality and do this. It's just a pain in the ass to do it, right? Apple, it's going to be, in the next 24 months, it's going to be able to solve a lot of different things because they're going to have the scan, they're going to have the AI, object detection. So every pair of shoes in your house is going to be a separate object.
And that's why I remember too in our last conversation when you brought up this potentially taking on Google search is Google search doesn't understand context, whereas if Apple is scanning every object in the world, that is
here's a better way to say this. Apple's going to know the difference between standing in your kitchen and sitting in your car. And when you search for something in your car, you're probably wanting to drive there, right? Probably. Or you're wanting to do something about transportation, right? Go somewhere, find something, find an in and out, right? That kind of thing. If you're in your kitchen, completely different set of probably basic searches that you're going to do, you know? Hey, put this thing on my shopping list. How many calories are in this ice cream, right? Blah, 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 right? All sorts of things are contextual, and Apple's going to know what context you're in so it can change the search engine and bring you things that might matter. Like if you're in your living room, you're probably in an entertainment context,
Right.
right? Either playing with your kids or watching movie or video games, right?
Which in turn is going to
Or
make Siri the most intelligent voice assistant out there.
I said it's dumb as a bag of rocks, but you're gonna think it just passed everybody, right? And what I mean by dumb as a bag of rocks, when you ask Siri or Amazon Alexa or a Google Assistant a question, and I've been doing a lot of questions because I have all four of them. I have all of them in my house, right? They're all listening to me. Tesla is another one. I'm in my Tesla, and it has a voice response system too. They're they all do something better than Siri, other than Siri has integration with the iPhone, right? So if you
Right.
want to tell your iPhone, put a timer or set an alarm for tomorrow morning for 7 a.m. so I can get up earlier, it'll do that, right? And it does it pretty well. But if you ask a question like, what's the latest breast cancer research or something, Google does a lot better. Why? Because Google has every search humans have ever made. And they wrote a lot of AI to look for those patterns. And you can see it working when you type a question into the
predictive,
search bar, right?
predictive every time.
There you go. That's AI, right? Predictive is AI, right? So an AI is predicting, oh, you want breast cancer research. We already know a lot of people search for breast cancer research. We already know what the best answer is for breast cancer research. So we'll just pass that along to your Google Assistant, right? Apple Siri is still not going to be quite as good as Google for a lot of those deeper searches for a while, right? But if you ask Siri with these headphones on anything about what you're actually looking at, it's going to be better, right? So most people are going to say, oh shit, Siri just got really smart.
Right.
No, Siri didn't get smart. Apple just brought new technology which changed your opinion of it, right? Which is going to be a fun thing to watch people do. The searches that Siri is going to be able to do in the future are going to be quite amazing.
Well,
right?
and I think about this of Apple too. I had the pleasure of interviewing the individual whose company helped Apple design their retail store concept, all the way back in the late 90s. And he talked a lot about how Apple has always focused on the human outcome of every single thing they do, because it's not about the technology. It's about how the technology serves the person, or how it helps the person accomplish something more in their reality that they couldn't otherwise. And this may seem like the ultimate product. Honestly, out of everything they've made, I mean, I'm still hanging on to the accessibility stuff that you talked about, because you think about blind
it's a big one, right?
And deaf people, mean, that's just...
It's a big one. This is a $40 billion product, right? And the guy next door works for the CarPlay team. They're putting spatial audio into all sorts of cars by 2022, right?
Wow.
So I talked to Volvo, and they're going to let buttons talk to you and stuff like that. So they're building this computer system into cars, and the headphones are coming. The visor is coming in 2022, right? So by 2022, we're in a different world where we're actually seeing the world differently because of this product, and we're hearing the world differently.
So does this mean brands are going to have to completely reshape the way that they reach consumers from both an audio and a visual perspective?
Yes. Not to mention, they're all going to have to redo their audio brands, right? Like at AT&T, when you hear an AT&T commercial plays 4 sounds, they're going to have to redo that for the spatial audio system. Because when you hear a brand that's spatial versus a brand that's 2D like today, you're going to hear it and you're going to go, man, that brand sounds old, right? It sounds like black and white TV. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, and so
Gosh.
everybody's going to have to re-record their sounds. I was on the floor when Microsoft recorded the sounds that would start up when you start up Windows, it plays four
Yeah.
sounds, right? Robert Fripp recorded those on a guitar 15 years ago. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, everything's going to change. You talk to retail, you talk to Procter and Gamble. They're excited about this stuff because they're going to be able to sell you a lot of new things in new ways, right?
I'm just thinking of the possibilities, kind of like how the App Store itself was the platform that gave rise to billion-dollar companies. I wonder if the same thing will happen with this.
Yes, absolutely. There are some companies that might already have been born that soon will. I told one the other that I saw that there's a good chance he's going to be public in 3 years.
Wow.
Right? And this company is Merge VR. They make little cubes that put augmented reality. A lot of school teachers use them. They sold 1 million of these things, and they just got put into Instagram. So their technology now is in the Instagram, which has 2 billion people. But it could be a remote control of the future, right? Replace your TV remote control. And by the way, the 3D sensor on the front of these headphones can tell how hard you're squeezing something or how hard you're touching something, right? And so it's going to be able to do some mind-blowing things with different objects in your house, right? Crush that Coke can and see what it does, right? And you crush the Coke can and all of a sudden it starts screaming. Right? Yeah.
I truly, Robert, cannot wait for whenever they host this press conference next year and they're going to talk about the same old stuff and then they finally do their one more thing and it's this.
The rumor is it's coming at the WWDC in June, but it could come earlier. They were supposed to bring this product out already, and in fact, they took all the headphones off the store shelves, all the competitors, right?
Yeah.
So that's a signal that a big product is coming.
You think I wonder if the pandemic pushed them back from releasing it?
It made it harder to iterate and get products on the market, but it opened up a new market window as well. Because keep in mind, even if a vaccine came out tonight, it's going to take 2 or 3 quarters for that vaccine really to get into enough people to slow down the exponents, right? So we're still talking about third quarter of next year before things really get cleaned up. And I don't have a vaccine yet, right? So we're getting close, but I don't even know a billionaire who's gotten it yet, right? So, but it's coming soon. And then it'll take 6 more months after that before it starts working, right? Before we have, enough people with it to slow down
to actually make a dent in all this.
Yeah, so we're not going to go a lot of traveling until third quarter of next year. At the earliest, I don't think we're going to traveling until 2022.
I agree.
So Apple's going to have this product coming right when we're about itching to go out again.
And then people are like, I need a new pair of headphones for all the flights I'm going to be going back on and stuff.
Bingo. Not to mention, your Zoom calls are not going to stop.
Oh no, this is a part of the next normal permanently.
Yes. Yeah. And you're going to be able to go with these headphones and visors into a restaurant that has some TVs, and you're going to say, hey Siri, turn all the TVs to CNN, right? Because you don't want to watch Fox. Or hey Siri, put on the 49er game.
Because it's going to overlay over the TV screen, right? The visor part. Yep.
Bingo. All the TVs will have a virtualized TV in front of them, and you'll be able to grab it and move it to your table or make it bigger, right? You can have a 400-inch TV in front of you, right?
So then is with this in mind, then, of course, how we have physical TVs now that are getting cheaper and cheaper and bigger, are we just going to have you just stare at a wall and then that's your TV? I mean, do you think the TV manufacturers are starting to shake a bit because of something like this? Or
they should, because I'm not very likely to buy another TV.
Yeah.
Because I'm buying 4 of these things. I'm buying these headphones and then the visors for everybody in my house, right? and
I love it.
and here's why. We're going to wear them together at TV night, right? And you're like, what? Why wouldn't you all just watch one TV? And
Because you can be
no,
anywhere in
because
your house watching the same thing with spatial sound.
and I can hear my wife talking to me
Oh
because
my gosh.
it knows where she is, and it knows she just said, "Hey, Robert, let's get dinner," right?
Yep.
And so it'll say, "Hey, Miriam just asked you to get dinner." It might even convert the audio to a text string in my visual, right? But I think I'm gonna hear her separate from the entertainment, and I'm gonna be able to, and it's gonna get my attention with where it puts the audio, right? So there's a lot of fun things that are possible. It'll be interesting to see what comes with this product. And I've talked to so many people about it now that I have a pretty good idea of what's possible with this thing, and it's going to be a pretty mind-blowing product.
My mind was blown when you told me about it last week, and my mind just continued to be blown as we've been talking about it for the last 44 minutes here. Because I'm growing up, I was very much an Apple fanatic. I owned Macs my entire life. Right as I was the age to get a cell phone, it was an iPhone was my first phone and all this stuff. Over the last couple of years, I've kind of, broken out of that just a bit, and I don't keep up to date on a bunch of stuff. But for me, it's like I've been hoping that they would release something that like, that changes the game again, like they did with the iPhone. And this sounds like it's going to be that. And I'll be so happy if this 10-year wait truly produces this, which it sounds like it's going to, and the payoff is going to be incredible for so many different people. Make them a lot of money in the process, but also, create wealth in so many other areas.
Yeah. The hard part is that this product is a really freaky product, right? When I talk through, this thing is going to see everything in your drawers, and and remember where your scissors are, or
right,
like intimates, right?
I was just going to say the intimate stuff that folks own,
Yeah, because it's going to tell you to look underneath beds and in drawers, right? And it's going to do some fun stuff with you. And shit, you're going to wear these things, right? And you're just going to wear, I wear them while folding laundry, right? So it's going to watch me fold this stuff up and learn about certain things, right? So it's a freaky product.
Have you,
Apple, where I'm going with this, Apple is doing more human factor testing with this product than it has done with any product combined in its history, because they will not do anything that really freaks people out.
Right.
At least they won't do it immediately. They'll take you over multi-years to get to where it freaks you out. Right.
Right. So if you're wearing this constantly, if it's essentially collecting information about your life every second of every day, I know you talk with Brian Romley, and I'm sure you've seen him mention his whole wisdom keeper concept.
He's the one who figured this out first. So Brian deserves the credit. Brian called me up one time and he said, I just heard that Apple's doing headphones and here's what they do. And I'm like, oh, that explains all the patents we're seeing. That's fucking brilliant. Start with audio. I didn't even think about starting with audio, make everybody happy with audio, and then go to video. It's so brilliant on a lot of every company next year. If this product gets to market, which I'm pretty sure at this point it will. If it gets to market, every company is going to have to rethink its strategy, right? Yeah. And every company is going to have to build expertise in audio, right? Even a podcaster is going to have to relearn how to record things for this spatial audio product, right? Even the AirPod Pros can sound. Philip Rosedale's building a whole company around AirPod Pros with spatial audio, because you're going to get thrown into somebody's backyard and have a conversation with them, right?
And I think I may have asked you this before too, but do you think there'll be something similar, like an app store for this, where people can develop applications and experiences and different things?
Yes. Yeah. There's still going to be apps. We'll see what they call these new apps.
Yeah.
That are going to be, for instance, let's say you wear these things into a shopping mall, right? You might want to load an app up for the shopping mall. It's still a pain in the ass, but I could see doing that for the entire shopping mall, because every couple of weeks you're going to go back to that shopping mall, and if you can, ask Siri where the bathrooms are, or where the Macy's is, or whatever, it'll tell you, right? Or where, even better, where are the Levi's jeans in this mall? But I don't think you're going to load a app up for the Chinese restaurant in the mall, right?
Yeah.
So as you walk by that restaurant, there needs to be a way to say, hey, you just walked within 10 feet of the restaurant. Let's load something up that'll make your experience in the restaurant better, right? The chef could talk to you as you're walking in and say, hey, welcome to Chef Shoes. Here's the special of the day when you walk in, right? Or something like that. So, or have a menu in front of you, right, with pictures of the food, right, in the visor, stuff like that, or on your phone, right? Look at your phone. We'll show you what the menu looks like, right? All that needs to be impelled to come on by a geofence, or by something in this new 3D map that's being built, right? So as you walk around the world, like I have a 7-Eleven on our street. So if I walk into the 7-Eleven, well, they could start doing things with me, right? Could tell me things, right? Could play games with me, right? And it'll know everything that's in that 7-Eleven, right? So at least it will pretty quickly, right? By 2023, it knows everything about everything.
Right. And that's actually one of the,
right,
as we kind of wind our conversation down here, a question I wanted to ask you, not to throw you on the spot, but if you had a crystal ball and could look 10 years into the future, what does 2030 look like with tech? Will everyone be walking around with these intelligent headsets, visors, contact lenses, et cetera, whatever you call them? What does 2030 look like to you?
Weird.
that is the best answer ever. I love it.
Hey, Tesla, let's go to the shopping mall, right? And it'll just open my garage door and we'll just go, right? And I might not even own a car, right? I might have ordered a Cybertruck or a Roadster to come and pick me up. And by the way, once self-driving happens, transportation goes from about $60 a retail, $60 an hour retail, down to about 10, right? Maybe even less. And so the cost of transportation is about to go way down, no matter who does it, whether it's Volvo or Ford or Tesla, I don't care. It looks like Tesla's going to be the first and the biggest, right?
Right. Well, I mean,
but
we talked about, Tesla,
there's others. I talked to Volvo, and they're putting this system into cars in 2022, right?
Yeah.
So self-driving is coming. Maybe it takes another 5 to 10 years to finish it off and get it tested and get regulation going and get acceptance. Because right now, people they don't understand how good it is or how bad it is. They don't know either way, right? So
it's the purgatory of autonomous vehicles right now.
Yeah. People were yelling at me for having my hands off of my Tesla. I put 53,000 miles.
I would have given somebody the finger, be like, "Leave me alone and let me enjoy my car."
It'd be like, no, 1,500 people were like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen somebody do." Right? Driving a car without holding on the steering wheel in a turn with their family in the car, right?
Yeah.
And yet it already does that, right? So cars are going to be self-driving by 2030. You're going to have Apple, Facebook, and Google, and Amazon, and others with glasses by then that are going to have fairly great optics in them. Right now, the reason this hasn't happened yet, right, is it's still so early in development of optics. The optics just aren't good enough yet. The screens that are in the glasses just aren't good enough. The weight is too heavy. They don't look cool, right? A HoloLens is big. It's a pound, right? And they're too expensive. The HoloLens is $3,500, right?
Oh yeah, that's
So
way out of price range
that's
for any common consumer.
that's the other thing that's really brilliant by starting with audio, because with with the lidar on the device today, the phone, for instance, when you scan your kitchen, the lidar is really noisy. It's brilliant that it works that way, right? But you see holes in walls, and you see bumps, and you see blurry areas, right? Has a lot of noise. It's 300,000 points of data that it's getting from your surroundings, right? But it's noisy. So by starting with a headphone, it hides all the noise. You don't see the blurry thing, right? You just hear that there's a trumpet player in your kitchen all of a sudden, right? And you're like, this is sick, man. I'm walking around my kitchen and you listen to this trumpet player, and it's like being in Preservation Hall, walking around a trumpet player, right? And it's like, wow, that's cool. The other thing it does is they can take the 3D scan of your house, and they can retrain the AI that runs the LiDAR or reduces the noise. They can train it more what a wall is, or what a table is, or what a floor is, or what a ceiling is, right? And remove noise from those things. And so by the time you get the visor a year later, or 8 months later, or 10 months later, whatever it is in 2022, the visor is going to look badass, because it's going to have dressed up your house and made it look amazing, right? And only Apple's going to have that data to do that. So the people in the industry I'm talking to say Apple is years ahead, and it's thinking of how it's going to get this data, how it's going to provide this data to users, right?
Well, that's the thing.
You
look at Amazon, Google, and Facebook. None of them have Microsoft. None of them have products that, at least currently available, and it doesn't sound like even on the near horizon here that
they all are developing these products. But they don't have the trust.
And
they don't have the trust.
I think if there's any
Google and
ingredient
Facebook
to this
recipe,
if there's any ingredient to this recipe, especially when it comes to that type of technology, collecting all that data, trust is like the key ingredient. Apple has that.
Now, I think when Facebook comes in the market, and I've seen Facebook strategy documents, so I know they're working on this stuff too, and they're coming, soon after Apple with a pair of glasses, right? Facebook, though, is, if you go to Vietnam, they don't buy Apple devices. They can't afford them.
Yeah.
And their internet is Facebook. It's a very different kind of user than lives in a rich neighborhood, right? So Apple's going to keep the rich people, and Facebook could get all the rest of the world, because they can subsidize the cost of these devices with advertising, and even wait for the architecture to come along a little bit. For instance, if you know that everybody has 5G, like real 5G, millimeter wave 5G,
right,
near their house or near them, then you can build a new kind of architecture where you put a lot of the computing processing, the AI stuff, up in the cloud, and your glasses won't need a very big computer compared to what's up in the cloud, which is going to be millions of NVIDIA cards or something like that. Right? Tesla is building its own chips now for both the car and for its data centers, right? To do these AI workloads. So new stuff is coming. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year.
I can't wait. And this is exactly why I'm like, gosh, I was looking forward to us chatting so much for this. Cause again, like, a lot of the folks like I said, we talk about current tech, but like when it comes to really what's on the horizon that we know is coming and that is totally going to just flip everything on its head. That's why I'm like, yeah, Robert knows so much about this area, specifically this new product. And because
computer vision, machine learning, augmented reality.
I truthfully think you look
3D
at
sensors.
I think you look at AR and VR and spatial computing, and I think you asked the mainstream consumer about them, they haven't been as much of, quote unquote buzzwords as like AI and voice
Yeah,
and big data and cloud computing have been, so people are more familiar with those. But this is going to change that. And quickly before we go too, so I know this device
yeah,
we talked about really relies on spatial computing and some AR components, but VR is actually a space I was in for a hot minute.
yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the future of VR with it being totally immersive? Like, I'm still hopeful that we do end up getting an Oasis like from Ready Player One or something like that. But
But
like, what's the state of VR?
by the end of next year, nobody's going to care about VR.
You think so?
Yeah, nobody's
All
going to care
right.
about VR. Now, that might not be true.
Yeah.
Hardcore gamers, like if you're playing Call of Duty today and you have a really nice NVIDIA card and a 4K TV and a nice PC, a fairly recent PC, right, that can
Yeah.
keep up with the latest ray tracing video games and the latest, like even a flight simulator from Microsoft kind of thing, right, needs a pretty beefy NVIDIA card or an AMD card that can do GPU, that has GPUs on it, right? And Facebook is going to sell, Facebook's Oculus Quest 1.0 sold about 1 million units, right? And so between now and next June, it might sell another 1 million units, right? So 2 million units total. How many headphones is Apple going to sell in the first hour?
Millions upon millions upon millions.
There we go, right? And so over the first year, everybody's going to hear about this Apple product. And let's say you have an extra $1,000 to spend next Christmas. Are you going to buy VR? Are you going to buy these headphones and get prepared for the visor? Or are you going to buy a new MacBook? Or are you going to buy a new Sonos system? Right? You start thinking about what,
right,
an average family, where would they spend an extra $1,000, right? If they had it, right? And which a lot of people don't have any money right now. But Apple has a credit card, so
exactly.
Hey,
Well,
you don't have a job today, you can still get one. We'll give you no interest for a year,
right.
Something like that, right?
Well, and I consider their marketing department to be one of the best, if not the best in the world, and they are going to market and sell these things in a way unlike we've probably ever seen.
Oh yeah. Well, you're going to hear about them, right? Because Apple, that's what Apple does. Apple, when you go to a press conference like from Sony or Samsung or Huawei or any press conference, right? HP, Microsoft. How many people? How many satellite trucks are in the parking lot?
Not many.
Usually one to three. When you go to an Apple press conference, like in Cupertino, how many satellites trucks are in the parking lot?
Oh, the media is all over them.
20 to 30, right?
Gosh.
So they get so much free advertising.
Right.
Even though they're the richest company in the world, everybody talks about them, right? So when these products hit, right, everybody's going to be talking about it, pro or con, right? If you hate them, you're going to talk about it. If you love them, you're going to talk about it, right? And everybody's got to know about it. There's nobody going to be in the modern world that's not going to hear about these headphones and then the visor, right? And that's before Apple even does any advertising. That's just on the first day.
Well, and if I think back when I was far younger too, like in junior high, when the iPod was really gaining popularity, I heard about it from word of mouth, and all the people I knew who had them were talking about them versus any other type of external advertising.
I guarantee you, I'm going to talk about these things nonstop when I get them. Right?
I'm ready for it.
because they're going to do a lot of new things, and you're going to have to learn how to use them. All right. And what they do. And if you're going to build a company, you have to know how the technology works and how to build it. And then think through, do I do it just for Apple? How do I do it for the others? Right. Because there will be others. Right. We'll see how they all compete.
I'm sure Google will have one. I'm sure Amazon.
Google bought Focals by North, which is a glasses company, right? and Facebook has spent billions and billions of dollars, probably is going to spend more than $10 billion as well, in the first decade, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, this is a pretty sizable war over your face that's coming, right? And so there'll be others, but we're going to talk about these products forever, for a long time. Right? It's going to be like, you don't.
This
want to
truly
wear that,
makes
or
me
you
feel
do
like
wear-
I don't know if you've ever seen the Disney Pixar movie WALL-E, but this truly makes me feel like WALL-E is on the horizon.
Oh yeah. Well, virtual beings are in the horizon because of these products, right? Because all of a sudden I can program something that looks either like a human or like a WALL-E, have it rolling around you, and have it so that you can talk to it, right? Hey, WALL-E, what's up? Hey, I learned a new joke. Tell me about it, right? You're gonna have relationships with things that don't exist around you. This is simulated reality,
and with
right?
all
This is
this
what
data
Apple's calling.
I was going to say, with all this data that Apple's collecting, they could be the first company to create a super intelligence. Like, I would almost bet money on that.
Well, remember, Siri is still dumb as a bag of rocks, but everybody's going to think it's smart.
Right.
So you got to remember, AI is still just a pattern recognizer. It's really good at that, but it's still not wise. It can't tell you why it told you the square root of 64. Well, it sort of can, but it doesn't know the answer. It just knows where to find the answer, right? And so we're going to have this argument about what is intelligence, for a while before the singularity arrives and we jack in.
And it's so interesting too. Like, some of the best minds out there still haven't been able to truly define what intelligence is.
Yeah. Well, I can talk you through it because I've been thinking about it with a lot of philosophers and other people, technologists. But it comes down to that Siri is going to be still pretty dumb when you ask it the wrong question, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be pretty smart about what you're looking at, what you're holding, right? And so that's Apple. That's what Apple does. Apple picks the one thing that people really want to do, right? And optimizes that. And people want to talk about what they're holding a lot, right? Hey, tell me how many calories are in this. Tell me how much is this on Amazon. Hey Siri, tell me, right? How big would this look in my house, right? Hey Siri, put this couch in my living room, right? Oh, it doesn't fit. What do you mean it doesn't fit? Well, your living room is 12 feet across by 14.3 feet across. Wait a second, Siri, how do you know that? Right? You're going to be wearing these headphones. It's going to know all sorts of shit. It's going to know distances, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I just had some pipes leak on my front lawn. I need to dig up the front lawn and put down some pipes. How much pipe should I buy, Siri? Oh, you should buy 22.3 feet of pipe. Then you're going to go, how do you know that? it's like, well, there's 22 feet from the water meter to your where your pipe broke, so you're going to be like, how do you know that?
Well, I for one am ready for it. I know, of course, a lot of folks, and I know a lot of folks who are all for leveraging technology in this way to really just help augment and make the human experience better. So I can't.
So my ending advice for anybody who's thinking about these things, particularly if you want to build a company, if you want to be relevant in 2022, which is when we all get glasses, whether it's from Apple or somebody else, there's a lot of new devices coming. If you want to be relevant in that world, you have to build it on audio in 2021. You have to think about how to make amazing audio experiences for the headphones first, which is going to be a great skill to have when visual finally shows up, because audio is really important, right? Being able to know how to record audio spatially and how to display it so that a Coke can talk to you is going to be a key skill soon. So,
And one probably very much high in demand with few people knowing about it. And as we know, it's supply and demand.
Yeah. And also, if you build a really mind-blowing audio brand, like Clubhouse is probably a good example of this, right? They're building Clubhouse for AirPods, right? Because a lot of people are getting AirPods, so that they're all willing to listen to a new kind of podcasting or a new kind of talk radio, right? Or participate in it. So Clubhouse has got $10 million from Andreessen Horowitz and hasn't even released yet, right? That'll come out next year. That brand might lead into a visual brand, a visual volumetric media brand once you get the visor in 2022, but it's going to start in audio, and it's going to, people are going to tell everybody on Twitter and LinkedIn and Twitch and TikTok, right? This is badass. You got to try these on the new Apple headphones, right? And if you get that kind of brand and that kind of relationship with the market, customers trying your thing and using it all the time, when the visor comes, you're going to be able to put visuals in there that are going to be mind-blowing. So gonna be a fun couple of years.
For sure. And that's, and for us right now, of course, trying to figure out specifically the direction we want to head in audio and voice tech. This is something that I've been mulling over since we've talked about it last week, and even this conversation's given me some more perspective.
Yep. Sweet. It's a service delivery platform, because in 3 years, Apple services are going to be quite much more important than they are today. Right.
I believe that 100%.
And by the way, it's going to know you have a bicycle in your office, right? Like a Nordic Trek, right? And it's going to be able to say, hey, we can turn that into a Peloton. Put a virtual screen on it. You can be riding
has a Peloton.
Yeah. From Apple, it costs $30 a month. Whatever it is. Right? And you're going to get volumetric entertainment because they bought a company called Next VR, right? And it's endless what's coming. They're going to come out with a lot of things over the next 24 months, and then it won't stop. It'll just keep, there's glasses coming after that in 2023, right? And so we're in a new world in 36 months, right?
I'm ready for it.
We're in a new world probably in 8 months, 9 months, but it'll be obvious to everybody in 36 months. It's like, oh shit, the world changed on me.
I cannot wait.
I gotta have a pair of these visors.
I cannot wait to watch that keynote and see all this come to fruition and think back to this conversation. Sometimes we'll be like, Robert was right. Here we go. Let's do it.
Let's see. I mean, Brian and I are going to have bets on slide decks. How many of our slides show up in the actual keynote? Like the 7:1 surround sound comparison, right? 7:1 surround is cool, but infinite surround is better.
Right. Awesome. Well, Robert, if this has been,
anyways, it was fun talking to you.
Absolutely. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you to chat or get in touch with you, what are some of the best ways
Twitter.
for them to go about doing so? Twitter
at Scobleizer, SCOBLEIZER.
I'll definitely second that, because that's how we got connected. So I'll make sure to include a link to your Twitter in the.
I'm on all of them, but Twitter is where I usually am. So
awesome. Thanks again so much for this awesome conversation. I'm super excited to keep in touch. And like I said, I cannot wait to see a lot of your predictions here. I truthfully think they're going to come true in the next few months. And it's just going to give birth to so many different things that we can't even wrap our minds around yet.
By June of 2021, we have a good idea what's coming. So then we can have another talk and see how right I was or wrong.
Yes. Let's do it. Mark it down. All right. Sounds good. We'll chat soon. Thanks again.
Cool. See you.
Artificial
intelligence, voice recognition,
machine learning.
robotics.
You've been listening to the Artificial Podcast with your host, Nick Myers. To stay up to date with all our latest episodes, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. To learn more about how your organization can benefit by unlocking the power of AI and voice, visit www.redfox-ai.com. Until next time.